Okay, so today we're going to be doing a gear head swap out. We're going to be taking the gear head that's on here and we're going to be swapping it for a larger gear ratio to get more power out of it, but run at a slower speed. So right now we're running with a GF V5G20AS, which is a 20-to-1 gear head. And we'll be swapping that out with a 50 AS at the end. So it's going to be a 50-to-1 gear head. So it's going to be running 50 over 20. That's going to be the new ratio. So it's going to increase its power. It's going to be over double. But it's going to be running slower. This one right here can run 125 feet per minute. We put the 50 feet on there. Just works out. It's also 50 feet per minute that it can run. So this is going to be something that can be done in the field. And I'm going to show you the tools you're going to need. So you've got some wrenches that you're going to need on here. This is a large, you can use an Allen key, set. You can get these, or you can have a screwdriver type. All right, so you're going to need a 1/4 inch. That's going to be for the big motor holes. You're going to need this 2.5 millimeter, because that's going to be the one that's going to separate the gear head from the motor. And then you're going to have this one here, which is a 3/32. That's for a 1032 set screw. That's to uncouple it from the drive shaft of the motor. And a flathead screwdriver. You can be smaller than this. This will assist you in opening the belt. So if we come up to the conveyor here, we're going to have if the power's on, then you're going to want to turn it off. You want to unplug this cord. It's going to be a power lockout, so you don't want that plugged in. So now everything is off. Now we have to open up the belt because we want to get to the coupling that's inside here and release it so we can take the motor off the frame. Now, there's lots of kinds of ways you can take these belts and you can start picking up the edges and start pulling the knuckles apart. But an easy way to do it is right at the drive end, is just to start at the first tooth, put a little flat blade screwdriver in there and just sort of pry that out. And you'll see it pops. And you can go right down the tooth. Don't skip them. Go to each one. Pop the knuckles out. Okay. All right. You don't need to turn the screwdriver. Just sort of crowbar it out. This happens to be the biggest belt we make, so probably should have picked a smaller conveyor to do this video with, but works with all the sizes that we do. So I'm going to get that one out. Of course, the last one's only going to give you trouble. Okay, so now we can peel that back. Now we're inside the conveyor. We've got the drive shaft mounted on this bearing housing on this side. All the sprockets. Now they're opening housing, which, by the way, this housing, it's a guide, but it's also a spare. Should you break that one, you can take this one off, swap the bearing into it, get back up, order a new one of these, and you keep running until you get through this. If you don't order more, you might break that one again. Whatever caused that to break, you might do it again. Now you don't have a spare. So think of it as a spare that you want to keep it replaced. All right, so we're going to grab the 3/32 Allen key, and you can turn this by hand, and we're going to loosen that set screw on there so that it's separated from the motor. You can feel it now. You can wiggle it so we know it's definitely separated. I'm going to switch over to a 1/4 inch. Now, before we take this motor off the frame, see, it's connected to a connector up here on the bottom. You want to pick that little tab down, carefully pry that cable out. Okay, and just push that out of the way. So now we have the motor separated from the frame. You can come in and start loosening them all up first. So like do that with anything you do. Crack them all. Get them all unrestressed out. Okay. Now, I'm going to leave that one into the last, just to make sure, you don't want things flopping off the frame. You want to have some control. So get these all so that they're out. You don't need to take them out of the actual housing. Oops, I'm going to leave that one in. take this one out. Okay. And then this one here, as we loosen that out, it'll separate. Okay, so now that they're all out, we could pull this motor off the frame. Okay, so you can see that there's a keyway there, and that keyway lines up with the set screw. I'm going to bring that over the bench, and this is where we're going to do the gear swap. So we're going to take off the screws. Now, you can see there's a set screw right there, small set screw, and there's another one just opposite. You also want to note the orientation of the, so when you take off this and put the new one on, you want to keep it, you know, this one happens to have the label at the top and the connector at the bottom. And because this rotates, you could put this on 4 different ways. You could have the shaft over here, then down toward the bottom, to the right, which of course when you do that and you put it on the conveyor, this connector might start, you know, moving around, and you have connectors on, well, you know, you want it on the bottom. So you got to maintain that. So we take this screw out. So screw it. I'm going to actually remove it from the frame so I don't drop it somewhere. Okay. Take out the other screw. This is where you want to hold this thing so it stays together. You don't want it popping apart on you. It's not going to have any springs in it, but the thing that I warn you about with taking these apart and putting them on is be careful engaging the pinion gear with the gear inside the housing of the motor. You just don't want to have any teeth meshing and crashing each other. So you see, this is a nice tight fit. You can actually now see how that rotates around. And as you rotate around, you actually see that there are, you know, holes, all those holes, which means you could have put it here or here. So we want to remember to keep it on the top. Now we're going to separate, we're going to sort of just pry it apart. See, it pops apart. Plenty of grease on there. Okay, and we'll get another one. I'm going to bring it back up, and it's also greasy. Put it back on. Be very careful. You put it on nice, slide it on there. It'll slip right in. Put in that set screw. Now, a trick with all putting screws into things that you don't strip them. Do a little turn it backwards. Oh, it'll click. That means it just dropped into the thread. Especially plastic things that you build. Always do that little, back it up a little bit, but while you're pushing down. So you put it in the screw. Start turn. Oh, it just clicked right away. And then you start that in. That way you always re-engage with the original threads. Don't crank them down. Get them, start getting them snug. All right. Now I've noticed when you put these together that even when the screws are in, there's a little bit of play. So I'll drop in a couple bolts. Sort of, you know, put them in the opposite corner so that they're not getting in the way of your screw. That way I know when I tighten it down, I'm still going to have clearance to put my screws through. And then you just start snugging these down. Okay, just finger tight it tight. That's it. You don't have to crank it. Remember, it's going to be clamped by the screws. So now we're back together. And notice, it's still a 21. I'm not just showing you how to do it. You don't have to really change it. So, had I changed this, by the way, to a bigger one, I would have used the screws that came with it. Each gearbox comes with a gear. And those screws are the right length. So as these get bigger, use the screws that come with the gear head. And use these hardware, use this extra spacer. That little spacer makes up for how extra long they make these screws, because they make them long enough to go through some thicker material. So for our conveyor, what we need to have this little 1/8 inch screw make the difference between that screw going all the way through the plate and then not tightening. So you take that washer off and put it on your new screw using the lock washer and the flat washer that comes with the screw. So you go flat washer, lock washer, and our spacer. Okay, so carefully put that in the frame. It's just the reverse of what you're doing. I know when you get manuals, they say, take it off this way, and when you're done, reverse the order. Sounds simpler than it really is sometimes. All right, so you get these in here, and you want to, don't do any tightening on the other side yet. Okay. Now, on the initial installation of this motor to the frame, when we first put it together, these plates that are on here, we don't have them totally tightened down yet because everything's got to line up. So we would tighten this screws first, just as we always do. Then, once that's tight, then I'll show you in a minute. Get these tightened down. Tighten down, tighten down. Okay, they're all tight. You don't have to get any more torque than that. If you get your hand force, these screwdrivers are kind of designed when you have a screwdriver. When you have an Allen wrench, you put too much trying to crank them. You just need them tight. All right, so now that's in there. We would, if this was a brand new setup, we just put these plates on, we'd come inside and we would lock up these Allen head screws here to hold those plates. Now they can't move. And the last thing we do is tighten that set screw. Don't forget to tighten the set screw. Tighten that down. Okay, so that's how you do a gear swap. You'd come back, put on your connector, and these, make sure the lock stays down while you're doing this. Get it up and line it up with that motor, sort of push up on it, and then pull up on the clip, your click, and just to show it's running, plug it back in. Turn it on, and then we'll give it a run, switch on. So there you go. Now, because you changed that gear head from a 20 to a 50, we didn't do it for this application, but if it had been changed to a different gear head, you have to do a change to this controller. All right, so that controller right now is a 20 to 1. If I turn this up to full speed, you'll see that it'll go all the way up to 125 feet per minute. Yeah, that's 125. Okay. Now, you change that gear head, it's only supposed to go up to 50. So, I'll give you a quick demonstration how we reset that gear ratio. So we turn off the power, make sure the lights are off. Put your finger, there's a clip right here, on the side of the control panel, one on the bottom, and you just give that a little pop. And it pops off. Okay. Now, make sure this slide switches to the left, and you'll notice there's a reverse little button down here too. You might have to flip that up or down because when you change gear ratios, sometimes they run forward, then they run counterclockwise. You just flip that to get it so it's going the right direction. So now we're going to program it. So if I just put a 50 to 1 on there in the chart, for 50 to 1, instead of being the chart for 20 to 1 is 32. And for 51, it'd be a different number, which we'll tell you, because it's going to be for every different gear head. There's 50s, there's 100s, there's 200s, there's 8, there's 9, 10s. There's just a lot of gear heads. So we have a chart for those, and when we give you when you order that gear head, if you need to, you just email us, and I'll get you the number for it. Okay? Putting in the video doesn't make sense because you might not even be using this gear head. So you need that number, but it has to be changed to get that to read in feet per minute. And the way you set that gear ratio, turn on the power. Now you're going to see the double zeros. Push the left button once, twice, 3 times. Now say PAR. Then you press the right button. The first one you click is going to be GRRR. That's gear. And once that says gear, you can push this button in down here. Now notice it popped right up and said 32, because that's when this one is set at 32. If it had to be set at 50, you would dial this dial till you got to 50. I'm going to pretend we just got to 50. I'm going to put it back to 32. Once it gets there, it'll be flashing. You give it a click. All right, it's all set. I just turn the power off instead of trying to back out of the menu. Just turn off the power. And when the lights go out, okay, put the cover back on. Slide it back to run. So we turn the power on. It's running. This one, you'll notice it starts up slow. It doesn't go rapidly into speed. It's got a control for acceleration, which is done under the panel. Let's pop that off, show you that. With the power off, put a small Phillips screwdriver, flathead, in that hole, and when you turn it clockwise, it adds this delay, start, slow down, and all the way counterclockwise is fast start. So it just instantly start. You know, a big long conveyor. This could be 40 feet long. You know, you see the airport baggage conveyors. They start up real slow. Same thing with the big conveyor. Start up a little bit slower, build up to speed, and the same thing when you shut it off, it'll slowly ramp down. And that's all done by this adjustment here. It's a fixed adjustment. Once you set it, you can do it again, but you have to have it. And I never put a screwdriver or anything in the electronics with the power on. You never know what you might contact in there. So do it when it's off, set it, adjust it, test it, and that's a quick thing you can do in there. All right, so the last thing you have to do is put your belt back on, snap it back together, lay it on the sprockets, and come around, bring up the bottom, start hooking these all back together again. All right, so I think that'll do it for this video. And if you did everything right, it's going to run just like it was supposed to.